Hi, I'm Brooke. I'm a student here at the university. My question for you is, how do you think the U.S. should approach problematic alliances?
Like Turkey? Yeah. Well, we have a few now. That's one. Hungary's another. But before I answer the direct question, I just want to say, how important our alliances are. Our NATO alliance, our Pacific allies, are a force multiplier for our leadership and strength in the world. And I think one of the most important things we ought to be doing is reinforcing those alliances and the importance of them rather than denigrating them. And meanwhile, uplifting our adversaries. So, but Turkey and some of our less democratic allies pose a particular problem. The challenge is you don't want to jettison those alliances, but you also can't overlook the bad behavior. So in Turkey's case, it's a lot of abuses of human rights. It's obviously the intervention in Syria. It's getting in bed with Russians on their air defense systems. And we had that challenge to perhaps not the quite same degree in the Obama administration. And the way we tried to manage it was, as difficult as it was, a lot of presidential engagement with Erdogan. And President Obama spent a lot of time in person and on the phone with him, not because they were besties, but because we knew that that was arguably the best way to prevent some of the worst excesses.
Is President Erdogan persuadable, in your experience?
Yes, then. And persuadable is maybe not the right term. You could shave the rough edges.
Okay.
You could mitigate the worst outcomes. And that's frankly, in part, plus our deterrent effect, how we made it impossible for many years for Turkey to invade northern Syria.
Yep.
It's not like they didn't want to. It's that they knew they better not mess with the U.S. Or rupture that relationship. President Trump sent a very different signal, and
now we see what happened.
We
see what happened. Thank you so much,
Thank
Brooke.
you.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Welcome back to Austin, and thank you for continuing to come to Texas Tribune Fest.
Thank you.
That is always a joy.
This is a hashtag ad. I didn't
Yes.
actually tell her to do that, but okay.
But my question is this. You have served at a cabinet level, and I'm just wondering, aside from a president, who ought to be taking the lead on climate change policies? Because so many different divisions and offices can claim a piece of it, but somebody needs to take the lead. Who do you think that ought to be?
Well, it depends, right? Internationally, it should be the State Department and the Secretary of State. And John Kerry, took that role very seriously and was passionate about it. And it helped lead to the Paris Climate Agreement. The diplomacy was run out of state and the White House. President Obama was very much engaged. We were all engaged. But when it comes to the domestic side, then you need EPA, you need Interior, you need a variety of agencies involved. But in the Obama administration, the EPA administrator was really the point person and very effective at it. We had two, and they were both excellent.
Yep.
But what you really need is a demand signal from the president to all elements of the government.
At the top, right? Yeah.
That this is a priority, and you have to take it seriously.
And the inverse of that would be, saying we're going to withdraw from the Paris Accords.
Sort of something like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. That's a signal of sort from the top as well.
And the Energy Department, we don't care about, renewables, only oil and gas.
Ma'am.
Coal.
Hello.
Yes.
You've been an influential advocate for the people of Sudan, and if I recall correctly, you were present at the South Sudanese Independence Day.
I was.
I'm wondering now, with hindsight, what your views are on South Sudan as it tries to emerge from this conflict, and what the Obama administration might have done differently. And I'd also be interested in your views on Sudan and its future following Bashir's ouster.
This is the kind of question you get.
That's good.
Right? You
That's
like that?
good. I write actually a lot about Sudan and South Sudan in Tough Love because it is a sort of through line going back to my time working on Africa as well as in the Obama administration. I'm very saddened and disappointed by what's evolved in South Sudan since independence. For those of you who don't follow this carefully, it's basically a civil conflict, and very corrupt, venal leadership in the government, and very corrupt, venal leadership in the opposition fighting the government. And what has been a real moment of promise in 2011 has been squandered, and the people of South Sudan who've suffered so long are really as bad or worse off than they were even before. So it's a huge tragedy, and you know, I think it was right for the people of South Sudan to have the opportunity to vote on a referendum for independence. They voted 98.6% for independence, but then they got stuck with some really bad leaders, and they haven't been able to change that. And I think U.S. policy, and I do write rather critically of our approach, not just there, but where I think we've made mistakes and where we've gotten it right across the board. But in South Sudan, and I take a fair share of responsibility for this, you know, I think we were late to push for broad-based sanctions against the government of South Sudan and the leadership of South Sudan. And there are various reasons for that, which I get into, which I won't bore everybody with, but I would have, in retrospect, think we would have perhaps been able to use our influence more effectively had we resorted to those tougher measures sooner. But you know, we've now done it, and it still hasn't worked, so it's really hard to tell. With respect to Sudan itself, this is the government in Khartoum. You know, the ouster of Bashir and the change of government driven by real popular sentiment was an amazing achievement. And again, you know, what comes of it is still to be seen. We're in this transitional phase. But I think the people of Sudan deserve enormous credit for, in effect, you know, bringing about a change through largely peaceful means. You know, some of the civilian protesters were certainly harmed, but they did not use violence to achieve their objective. And there's now hope.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Appreciate that.
Steve, you're telling me we have time for one more? Okay. I'm very sorry if we don't get to your question. Sir.
Oh, this last one?
Apparently.
You get the last one.
Ambassador Rice, are you concerned that there's been an exodus of professional Foreign Service officers from the State Department?
Deeply.
It's an easy, short answer, right?
Deeply concerned.
Right. Can you rebuild that?
With a lot of time and a lot of effort. I mean, we've lost people at the very senior levels who have been told, in effect, that they're not welcome. The most experienced. We have deficits now in terms of recruitment, and now we have the President of the United States very directly and personally attacking and denigrating Foreign Service officers, and a Secretary of State who
declining to stand up for
refusing
right, yeah.
to stand up for them.
Right.
And on the one hand, that's devastating for morale, and it's going to accelerate, I fear,
right.
the exodus. On the other hand, I think, you know, what I'm hearing from my former colleagues is they are Foreign Service proud. There's hashtag FS proud, because what they have been able to show the world and the country is how dedicated and professional and, you know, faithful to their oath under the Constitution they actually are.
If there is a silver lining over the last couple of weeks, it's that Marie Yovanovitch and Bill Taylor and these other folks from the State Department, defying directives not to do this, have demonstrated what public service looks like, right?
And I think absolutely. I don't think the American people understand how smart and committed and, you know, under the radar screen these people are trying to fly every day doing our business for us.
Right.
And they don't get the praise and support and the respect that our servicemen and women do, but they're putting themselves in harm's way every day. Right. As we just discussed, when you look at, you know, our losses in Libya or in East Africa, these people are putting their lives on the line.
Literally on the line for us. That's right.
And they do great work.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll see you again.